They all thought she was just a cleaner. Another nobody who picked up empty bullet shells while real soldiers did the important shooting. But when the arrogant sniper dared her to make an impossible 4,000-meter shot, Sarah Martinez was ready to show them what true talent looked like. Before watching full story, comment below from where are you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. The brass casings clinked against each other as Sarah Martinez dropped another handful into the metal collection bucket. The morning sun beat down on the shooting range, and sweat beaded on her forehead as she worked her way across the firing line. Around her, the elite sniper unit was packing up their equipment after another training session, their expensive rifles gleaming in custom cases. "Martinez, make sure you get every last casing," Sergeant Mills called out, not bothering to look in her direction. "The range needs to be spotless for the next group." "Yes, Sergeant," Sarah replied, continuing her methodical collection. She'd been assigned to range maintenance for 6 months now, ever since arriving at Forward Operating Base Razor. The other soldiers saw her as just another support personnel, someone to clean up after the real warriors finished their important work. Staff Sergeant Jake Thompson, the unit's top sniper, was showing off his custom .338 Lapua Magnum rifle to a group of junior marksmen. "This beauty can reach out to 1,500 meters with surgical precision," he bragged, running his hand along the stock. "Of course, it takes years of training and natural talent to handle equipment like this. Not everyone's cut out for precision shooting." Sarah kept working, but her ears perked up as Thompson continued his lecture. She'd heard this speech before, how sniper work required exceptional mental toughness, perfect hand-eye coordination, and an understanding of ballistics that took years to master. What Thompson didn't know was that Sarah had grown up on her grandfather's ranch in Montana, where 800-meter shots on coyotes were considered routine practice. The longest confirmed kill in military history was 3,540 meters, Thompson was saying. That's over 2 miles. Can you imagine the skill required for that shot? The bullet flight time alone is over 6 seconds. You have to account for wind drift, humidity, temperature, even the Earth's rotation at that distance. Private Collins, one of the newer snipers, looked impressed. "Have you ever attempted anything close to that distance, Staff Sergeant?" Thompson laughed. "My personal best is 1,800 meters. Anything beyond 2,000 is more luck than skill if you ask me. Though I suppose some of these fancy competition shooters claim they can hit targets at 3,000 plus meters. Different world from combat shooting though." Sarah bit her tongue. She'd seen her grandfather consistently hit prairie dog-sized targets at 1,200 meters with an old hunting rifle. He taught her that distance shooting wasn't about the equipment, it was about reading the environment and understanding the physics of projectile motion. "What about you, Martinez?" Thompson suddenly called out, his voice carrying a mocking tone. "I see you watching our training sessions. You ever fire anything bigger than a service pistol?" The other snipers turned to look at her, some smirking. Sarah straightened up, still holding her collection bucket. "I've done some shooting, Staff Sergeant." "Some shooting," Thompson repeated, getting a few chuckles from his audience. "Let me guess, basic marksmanship in boot camp? Maybe hit a few targets at 300 meters? "Something like that," Sarah replied evenly, not wanting to provide ammunition for more ridicule. Corporal Williams, one of Thompson's favorites, decided to join the fun. "Hey Martinez, you want to try your hand at some real shooting? I've got a bet that says you couldn't hit a barn door at 500 meters. "Leave her alone," said Specialist Chin, the unit's designated marksman. "She's just doing her job." But Thompson was warming to the theme. No, I think Williams is onto something. We're always talking about how anyone can learn to shoot, right? Martinez here seems interested in what we do. Maybe we should give her a demonstration of what real precision shooting looks like." Sarah continued collecting casings, hoping the conversation would die out. But Thompson wasn't finished. "Tell you what, Martinez. How about a little challenge? I'll set up a target at 1,000 meters, child's play for a trained sniper. You take one shot with my rifle. If you hit anywhere on the target, I'll recommend you for sniper school. If you miss..." He paused dramatically. "Well, maybe you'll stick to cleaning up after the real soldiers." The group erupted in laughter. Sarah felt her cheeks burn, but she kept her expression neutral. "I appreciate the offer, Staff Sergeant, but I should finish my duties." "Come on," Williams chimed in. "Don't be shy. It's just for fun." Thompson's eyes gleamed with malicious amusement. "Actually, let's make this really interesting. Forget 1,000 meters. Let's try something ambitious." He walked over to his spotting scope and adjusted it, scanning the range that extended far into the desert. See that rock outcropping way out there? The one that looks like a camel's hump. Sarah followed his gaze. The rock formation was barely visible, shimmering in the heat haze. That's 4,000 meters, Thompson announced. 2.5 miles. I'll paint a target on that rock, let's say a 24-inch circle. Martinez, if you can hit that target, I'll personally request your transfer to the sniper program and write a commendation letter. Hell, I'll even apologize for every dismissive comment I've made about support personnel. The laughter died down as the other soldiers realized how ridiculous the challenge was. Even for elite snipers, a 4,000-meter shot was nearly impossible. The variables involved, wind drift, air density, temperature gradients, even the Coriolis effect, made such a shot more theoretical than practical. Staff Sergeant, Chin said quietly, 4,000 meters is way beyond anything we've trained for. That's extreme long-range competition territory. Thompson waved him off. I'm not expecting her to make the shot. I just want to show what separates real marksmen from maintenance personnel. When she misses by 50 meters, maybe she'll understand why it takes years of training to do what we do. Sarah set down her collection bucket and walked over to the group. What rifle would I be using? Thompson's eyebrows rose in surprise. He hadn't expected her to accept. Well, my .338 Lapua Magnum, of course. Though at 4,000 meters, even that's underpowered. Ideally, you'd want a .375 Chaytak or .50 BMG for that distance. What's the ballistic coefficient of your ammunition? Sarah asked. The question caught Thompson off guard. Ballistic coefficient wasn't something most soldiers discussed casually. .670 for the 300-grain Sierra Match King bullets I'm running. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. Muzzle velocity? About 2,700 feet per second, Thompson replied, now looking slightly uncomfortable. Why? Just trying to understand the setup, Sarah said. She walked over to the range flag, studying how it moved in the breeze. Then she wet her finger and held it up, feeling the wind direction and strength. Williams laughed nervously. Look at this, she thinks she's a meteorologist now. But Sarah ignored him, pulling out her phone and opening what appeared to be a ballistics calculator app. She began entering data. Distance, altitude, temperature, humidity, wind speed and direction. Hold on, Thompson said, his amusement fading. Where did you learn about ballistics calculators? YouTube, Sarah replied simply, continuing her calculations. Amazing what you can learn online these days. The answer was partially true. She had learned advanced ballistics from online sources, but also from her grandfather who'd been a competitive long-range shooter before he'd taught her everything he knew about reading wind, calculating drop and making impossible shots. Thompson painted a 24-inch orange circle on the distant rock formation using a spotting scope and laser designator to confirm the exact distance. 3,987 meters. The target was so far away that even through the scope, it appeared as just a tiny orange dot. Okay, Martinez, Thompson said, his voice now carrying a note of uncertainty. This is your show. But when you miss, I want you to remember this moment. This is why we train for years, why we study ballistics, why not everyone can do what we do. Sarah approached Thompson's rifle setup. The .338 Lapua Magnum was mounted on a precision shooting rest, with a high-powered scope and all the accessories a professional sniper would use. She checked the scope settings, verified the rifle's zero, and examined the wind flags placed at various distances down the range. Current wind is 3 miles per hour from the right at our position, she said, more to herself than the watching soldiers. But I need to account for wind changes across the entire flight path. She pulled out a small notebook and began making calculations by hand, cross-referencing with her phone app. The watching soldiers grew quiet as they realized the depth of her knowledge. Bullet flight time will be approximately 6.2 seconds, she continued. Total drop will be about 45 feet, assuming standard atmospheric conditions. Wind drift. She paused, doing more calculations. Approximately 8 feet to the left, accounting for varying wind speeds across the distance. Thompson's mouth was hanging open. These weren't guesses. These were the kind of precise calculations that took years of training to master. Sarah adjusted the scope's elevation knob, counting clicks. I'll need about 32 MOA of elevation adjustment. She made the changes, then began working on windage corrections. This is impossible, Williams muttered. There's no way she actually knows what she's doing. But Chen was watching Sarah's methodical preparation with growing respect. She's using proper extreme long-range procedures, he said quietly. Look at how she's checking everything twice, accounting for different factors. Sarah positioned herself behind the rifle, adjusting the bipod and stock to achieve perfect body alignment. She checked her natural point of aim, making minor adjustments to ensure the rifle was pointing naturally at the target without muscular tension. Breathing technique is crucial for extreme distance, she said, settling into her shooting position. At 4,000 meters, even tiny movements are magnified enormously. She peered through the scope, studying the distant target. Through the high-powered optics, she could just make out the orange circle painted on the rock. The heat mirage made it appear to dance and waver. "I need to wait for a lull in the wind," she said calmly, "and shoot during a mirage condition that won't affect the bullet's path too dramatically." The soldiers watching were now completely silent. Even Thompson had stopped making jokes, realizing that Sarah's knowledge was far beyond what any casual shooter should possess. Minutes passed. Sarah remained motionless behind the rifle, watching the target through the scope, feeling the wind, timing her breathing. She was waiting for the perfect moment, when all the environmental factors aligned for the best possible shot. "Wind's dropping," she whispered. The flags along the range went slack for a moment. The heat mirage steadied slightly. Sarah took a deep breath, let it out halfway, then held it. Her finger found the trigger's sweet spot, that critical point just before the rifle would fire. She applied steady pressure, her crosshairs centered on the distant orange dot. The rifle cracked, its report echoing across the desert. The heavy bullet began its 6-second journey across nearly 2.5 miles of desert air. Thompson immediately swung his spotting scope toward the target, trying to see the bullet's impact. The other soldiers held their breath, straining to see the distant rock formation. Seconds ticked by. At extreme distance, it took time for the bullet to arrive, and even longer for the sound of the impact to travel back to the firing line. "I don't see anything," Williams said. "Must have missed by." "Wait," Thompson interrupted, his voice tight with concentration. He was staring through his spotting scope, adjusting the focus. Then they heard it, a faint crack echoing back across the desert. The sound of a high-velocity bullet striking rock. "Did she hit it?" Collins asked, unable to contain his excitement. Thompson was silent for a long moment, studying the target through his scope. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Dead center. She hit dead center of the target." The silence that followed was profound. Sarah slowly stood up from behind the rifle, her expression calm but satisfied. She'd known the moment she'd pulled the trigger that it was a good shot. The rifle's recoil had felt perfect, her follow-through had been smooth, and all her calculations had accounted for the environmental factors. That's impossible," Williams stammered. "Nobody makes a 4,000-meter shot on their first try." Sarah looked at him steadily. "It wasn't my first try at long-range shooting. Just my first try at this range with this rifle." Thompson lowered his spotting scope, his face pale. "Where did you learn to shoot like that?" "My grandfather taught me," Sarah replied simply. "He was a competitive long-range shooter. Won the King of 2-Mile competition 3 times. He always said that shooting wasn't about the equipment, it was about understanding the science and respecting the shot." The revelation hit the soldiers like a physical blow. They'd spent months dismissing Sarah as just another support soldier, never bothering to learn about her background or capabilities. "Why didn't you tell us?" Chin asked, his voice filled with genuine curiosity rather than accusation. Sarah shrugged. "You never asked. Besides, I figured actions would speak louder than words when the right moment came." Thompson was still staring at the distant target, shaking his head in disbelief. A 4,000-meter shot. In combat conditions. With equipment she'd never used before. He turned to face Sarah. "Martinez, I owe you an apology." "Several apologies." "It's fine, Staff Sergeant. I understand why you made assumptions." "No, it's not fine," Thompson said firmly. "We're supposed to be professionals. We should recognize talent regardless of someone's current assignment." He paused, then smiled ruefully. "Though I have to ask, how long have you been planning to surprise us like this?" Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "I wasn't planning anything. But when you offered a challenge, I figured it was time to show what I could do." Word of Sarah's impossible shot spread through the base within hours. Soldiers who had never paid attention to the quiet maintenance worker suddenly wanted to hear about her shooting background. Officers who had assigned her to cleaning duties began reconsidering her potential. Within a week, Sarah received orders transferring her to the sniper unit for evaluation and training. Thompson, true to his word, had written a commendation letter describing her extraordinary marksmanship demonstration and recommending her for advanced training. But perhaps more importantly, the culture at FOB Razor began to change. Soldiers started looking beyond surface assignments to understand their colleagues' true capabilities. The assumption that support personnel were somehow lesser warriors began to crumble. 3 months later, Sarah graduated from advanced sniper school at the top of her class. Her instructors noted her exceptional ability to read environmental conditions and make precise calculations under pressure. She was assigned as the unit's primary long-range specialist, with authorization to attempt shots beyond normal combat ranges. Thompson, now working as her spotter, often reflected on the lesson Sarah had taught them all. "I spent years thinking that marksmanship was about training and equipment," he said during one mission briefing. "Martinez showed me it's really about understanding the science and having the patience to wait for the perfect shot." Sarah's 4,000-meter shot became legendary within the sniper community. Videos of the shot, recorded on several soldiers' phones, were studied by marksmanship instructors and long-range shooting competitors. The demonstration proved that extraordinary talent could emerge from unexpected places, and that assumptions about someone's capabilities could be dangerously wrong. Years later, when asked about that day on the range, Sarah always emphasized the same point: the shot wasn't about proving anything to anyone else. It was about being ready when opportunity presented itself. Every soldier has unique skills and capabilities. Sometimes you just need the right moment to show what you can do. The brass casings she'd been collecting that morning still sat in their bucket on the range, forgotten in the excitement of the impossible shot. But they served as a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary achievements begin with the most ordinary tasks, and that true warriors can be found anywhere, often hiding in plain sight. Sarah Martinez had started the day as just another maintenance soldier picking up spent casings. She ended it as one of the most respected marksmen on the base, having proven that skill, knowledge, and determination matter more than assumptions or stereotypes. Her 4,000-meter shot didn't just hit the target, it shattered every preconception about who could be a warrior and where talent might be hiding. The desert wind still blows across FOB Razor, moving the range flags and creating the same challenging conditions that Sarah navigated that day. But now, every soldier who trains there knows the story of the maintenance worker who made the impossible shot, reminding them to look beyond surface appearances and never underestimate the person cleaning up after their training sessions. Sometimes the most profound lessons come not from textbooks or instructors, but from quiet professionals who let their actions speak louder than words. Sarah Martinez had been picking up casings until a sniper dared her to take the 4,000-meter shot. In accepting that challenge, she didn't just hit a distant target. She changed how an entire unit understood talent, capability, and the warrior spirit that can exist in the most unexpected places.